Hello and welcome to my video today. Today I'm going to solve a quadratic equation, but I'm going to use three different methods. So I'm going to solve for x the equation 2x plus squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. And the general form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So here is 2, b is 5 and c is minus 3. And the three methods I'm going to use are factorization, complete the square, and the quadratic formula. So let's start with factorization. So I'll write the original problem down again. 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Now what we need to do is we need to find two numbers which multiply to give us a c, which is minus 6, and which add together to give us b, which is 5. So those two numbers are 6 and minus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those two numbers to help us, because what we're going to do is we're going to split up the 5x into 2x terms. So we're going to split it up into 6x minus x. So you'll notice here that all I've done is I've changed 5x to 6x minus x. And the 6 and the minus 1, which are the coefficients of x here, they came from this. So these two numbers that we look for, these are the coefficients of x that we need when we split up this original b term. Okay, so 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 becomes 2x squared plus 6x minus x minus 3. Now if we split that into 2, we have 2x squared plus 6x, and then we have minus x minus 3 on the right. And then we look at the first half, 2x squared plus 6x. So we can take a common factor of 2x out, and then that will be multiplied by x plus 3 inside the bracket. So when you multiply that out, you get 2x squared plus 6x. Now, one thing you need to bear in mind here is, which will be useful when you're doing these problems, is the term that you find here inside this bracket is actually a factor of the problem. So we found one factor already. So that will give us our first answer for x. So x is minus 3. So we set that equal to 0. X is minus 3. So that's one of the answers, solutions of the problem. X is a root of that equation. Minus 3 is a root. Another thing you'll bear in mind is this will now be repeated over here. So you can just copy this over here. So you x plus 3, put it over there, and then you need to find this little bit, which is minus 1. Once you know that, that will be a factor of this last part, and then that bit there will be quite easy to find. That is just a factor of that. So that times that will give you that. So minus 1 times x is minus x, minus 1 times 3 is minus 3. Okay, it always works out like that. It's very beautiful. Now we combine them together. X plus 3 is a common factor. So 2x minus 1 times x plus 3 equals 0. Solve for x. 2x minus 1 equals 0. So x is a half. X plus 3 equals 0. X is minus 3. So that's our two solutions. X is a half and x is minus 3. You can plug them in to the original equation to verify the answer. We're not going to do that. You can check it yourself. Okay, so now we're going to move over to complete the square. It's a little bit more complicated. So in complete the square, again, I'm going to write the problem down, original problem down. So 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0. But I need to check the a value. Coefficient of x squared is 2. So I need to make that 1. I need to get rid of that 2. So divide across by 2, we get x squared plus 5 over 2x minus 3 over 2 equals 0. Now we need to make our x terms into a square. At the minute we've got a squared plus a linear x term, and we want to try and make all of that into like a square. So what we do is we take half of b, we take half of the coefficient of x, which is 5 over 4, and then we add that to x, and then we square it. So that's the first thing we do, because when we do that, when we square that out, we get x squared plus 5 over 2x, because it's twice their product, remember, plus 5 over 4 all squared. So that is the same as that. The only difference is we now have a 5 over 4 squared as a surplus. component. So we now need to subtract that off. But we can do that outside the bracket. That's just a number. So that's exactly what I've done. So I've added on 5 over 4 to x, squared the whole thing, and now I'm taking off 5 over 4 squared. So taking off b over 2 squared. And then I've still got my minus 3 over 2 from above, so write that down. Okay, so now I've got my square term. I've completed the square there, and then the rest of it is just numbers. So I can take them to the right hand side. X plus 5 over 4 all squared equals 3 over 2 plus 5 over 4 all squared. X plus 5 over 4 squared equals 24 over 16 plus 25 over 16. Where did that come from? So 5 over 4 all squared is 25 over 16. So I'm using 16 as a common denominator. So 3 over 2 is the same as 24 over 16. Add them together, you get 49 over 16. So x plus 5 over 4 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 49 over 16. Just take square roots. And 49 and 16 are nice numbers, they're square numbers, so that cancels down beautifully, simplifies very nicely. So x is equal to minus 5 over 4 plus or minus 7 over 4. I've just taken the 5 over 4 from the left, moved it to the right, so we have to subtract it off. So x is equal to 2 over 4. It's minus 5 plus 7 over 4, which is 2 over 4, or it's minus 5 minus 7 all over 4, which is minus 12 over 4. So x is equal to a half or minus 3. So we just simplify the two answers, 2 over 4 and minus 12 over 4. So half and minus 3. And that is the same as what we got for the factorization method. All the answers will be the same, only the method is different. But going by those two methods so far, obviously the factorization seems to be the simpler method. Once you know this little technique, it seems to be a lot quicker, doesn't it? This seems a little bit more technical, complicated. Right, finally, the quadratic formula. The famous quadratic formula. So you might be given it in a test or an exam. It might be in a formula booklet. It might be given in the question, whatever. But memorize it. I always recommend try and memorize it. So x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. We already know a is 2, b is 5, c is minus 3. Once you know that formula, you're pretty much done. You just plug the a, b and c in and you're done, isn't it? Couldn't get more easier than that. So plug those in. X equals minus 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 minus 4 times 2 times minus 3 all over 4. X equals minus 5 over 4 plus or minus the square root of 49 all over 4. X equals minus 5 over 4 plus or minus 7 over 4. Square root of 49 is 7, obviously. So x is equal to 2 over 4 or minus 12 over 4. So x is equal to a half or minus 3. So again, pretty fast, similar to factorization, quite quick. Once you know the formula, you're done, pretty much done. You just plug in values in, very easy. Now, if the formula is not given, and you don't have it in a formula booklet or anything, you don't know it, and you're not given it, then you would have to derive it yourself, or you would have to use one of these methods. Okay. And remember, I covered another video on the formula and where it came from. The formula was derived using the complete the square method. So this is the basic foundational method to all of this, really. So without this, we wouldn't have the formula, to be honest. So we owe a lot of gratitude to complete the square. Okay, so that has allowed us to get to this. Okay, but once we know this, as I say, guys, once we know this, we can just use this every single time. We don't even need to use this anymore. We can just use this. However, if the question says, the question may specifically say to use completing the square method or to use factorization method. So if the question says to use a certain method, then you have to use a certain method. Don't use the quadratic formula if it tells you to use another method, obviously. So don't get too carried away with it. Don't just memorize it and think you're done. You know, you might be asked to use another method. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.